1. e4, Karpov once again opens with the king's pawn, confidently steering the game towards the classical, open structures that he had already begun to master. 1. e6, his opponent, Scheffler, responds with the solid French defense, aiming to create a more closed and strategic battle to blunt the young Karpov's tactical skills. 2. d4, Karpov establishes a strong pawn center, following the most ambitious and popular path against the French, seeking a space advantage from the opening. 2. d5, Black immediately challenges White's central control, leading to a direct confrontation that will define the pawn structure for the rest of the game. 3. exd5, Karpov chooses the exchange variation. While often leading to symmetrical and quiet games, Karpov will demonstrate how to create winning chances through subtle positional pressure. 3. exd5, Black recaptures, creating a perfectly symmetrical pawn structure. The challenge for both players is now to create an imbalance and outmaneuver the other. 4. nf3, simple and logical development. Karpov controls the center and prepares to get his king to safety, following the classical principles of the opening. 4. nf6, Black mirrors White's development, maintaining the symmetry and creating a solid, if somewhat passive, setup. The game is a pure maneuvering battle. 5. b2, a slightly more reserved developing move than the common bd3, Karpov's bishop is placed on a flexible square, keeping his options open for the future. 5. bd6, Black develops his bishop to an active square, from where it controls key diagonals and prepares to support his plans in the center. 6. King's safety is the first priority. Karpov gets his king out of the center before embarking on the complex middle game plans that will follow. 6. h6, a useful prophylactic move by Black. It prevents the annoying bg5 pin and creates an escape square for his king, solidifying his position. 7. 1 rupee, the rook is placed on the semi-open e-file, a subtle move that prepares to put pressure on Black's position later in the game. 7. b6, Black develops his bishop to a solid defensive square, reinforcing his control of the center and preparing to connect his rooks. 8. nbd2, Karpov's knight development is subtle and profound. From d2, it supports the center and can be rerouted to f1 g3, a typical positional plan. 8. nbd7, Black continues to develop logically, reinforcing his central control and preparing to challenge White's plans for the middle game. 9. nf1, the knight begins its long journey. This is a classic positional idea, rerouting the knight to the kingside where it will become a key piece. 9. c6, a solid move that reinforces Black's pawn chain and prepares to challenge White's control of the d4 square. 10. bd3, Karpov places his bishop on a more aggressive square, from where it eyes the Black kingside and supports White's central ambitions. 10. qc7, the queen develops to a useful square, connecting the rooks and preparing for a potential queenside castling, which will change the game's character. 11. qe2, the queen moves to support the e-file and prepares for the coming action. Karpov is playing with remarkable patience and foresight. 11. a critical decision. Scheffler castles on the queenside, turning the quiet, symmetrical game into a sharp, double-edged battle with opposite-side castling. 12. b3, Karpov calmly completes his development, placing his bishop on a flexible square from where it can support both the kingside and queenside. 12. right 8, Black brings his rook to the e-file, preparing to challenge White's control and create counterplay in the center. 13. ing3, the knight arrives at its ideal destination. From g3, it controls key squares, supports a potential attack, and solidifies White's kingside. 13. g6, a solid move to prevent any knight jumps to f5, but it also creates a slight weakness on the dark squares around the king. 14. c4, Karpov now begins to challenge Black on the queenside, seeking to open lines against the enemy king with his pawn breaks. 14. bg4, an active move. The bishop puts an annoying pin on the f3 knight, hoping to disrupt White's coordination and slow down his attack. 15. c5, Karpov clamps down on the queenside, gaining space and forcing the Black bishop to retreat. The strategic battle for position continues. 15. bf4, the bishop retreats but remains a nuisance, keeping an eye on the White position and creating tactical possibilities. 16. QD2, the queen moves to a more active square, breaking the pin and preparing to support the queenside attack. A very mature decision. 16. Bs3, black decides to exchange the bishop, relieving some of the pressure but also giving up his more active minor piece. 17. Rex 3, Karpov recaptures with the rook, which is now a very active piece on the third rank, ready to swing over to the queenside attack. 17. B6, the bishop retreats to a solid defensive square, but black's position is becoming increasingly passive. White is slowly taking control. 18. B4, the queenside pawn storm begins. This is Karpov's main plan, and he executes it with precision, aiming to rip open the files in front of the black king. 18. Ing4, black's knight seeks counterplay on the kingside, but it is a slow plan compared to white's direct and powerful queenside assault. 19. Re1, the rook calmly retreats to safety, having done its job of activating. It now prepares to rejoin the attack from the back rank. 19. F5, black launches his own counterattack on the kingside. The game is now a classic race to see whose attack will break through first. 20. A4, the second wave of the attack. The a-pawn joins the assault, and the pressure on black's king is becoming immense. 20. Ngf6, the knight is forced to retreat to a defensive square, a sign that black is already feeling the heat of white's powerful attack. 21. Nf1, a deep and patient maneuver. Karpov reroutes his knight, preparing to bring it into the attack on the queenside where it will be decisive. 21. N4, the black knight finds a strong central outpost, which is black's main source of counterplay. It is a powerful piece. 22. QB2, the queen moves to support the b-pawn's advance and puts more pressure on the black king's position. The attack is gaining momentum. 22. G5, black's own pawn storm on the kingside is looking dangerous. The position is incredibly sharp, and both sides are playing for a knockout blow. 23. Reb1, a masterful decision. Karpov repositions his rooks to the b-file, correctly identifying it as the key file for his attack. 23. G4, black's attack is also accelerating. The kingside is being torn open, and the position is balanced on a knife's edge. 24. In 3d2, the knight repositions to a key defensive square, from where it holds the kingside together and prepares to join the queenside attack. 24. Qf4, the black queen becomes a major threat, eyeing the weak points in white's kingside. The tension is at its peak. 25. Bs4, a brilliant exchange. Karpov trades his bishop for the powerful black knight, a key defensive move that also opens the b-file for his queen. 25. Fex4, black recaptures, opening the f-file for his rook. The position is a tactical mess, but Karpov has everything under control. 26. B5, the breakthrough. Karpov sacrifices a pawn to rip open the files in front of the black king. This is the decisive moment of the game. 26. QC7, the queen is forced to retreat to a defensive square, but it cannot hold back the tide of white's attack. 27. B6. The pawn lands on b6 like a dagger. It is a monster, paralyzing black's defense and creating unstoppable threats. 27. X6, black is forced to capture the pawn, but this only serves to open the a-file for white's rooks, adding to black's misery. 28. CXB6, Karpov recaptures, and his passed b-pawn is now a permanent and decisive advantage. The position is strategically won for white. 28. QD6, the queen tries to create a blockade, but it is a hopeless task. The pawn is too strong, and white's pieces are too active. 29. A5, the a-pawn becomes the second wave of the attack. It is a deadly threat that black cannot defend against. 29. NB8, the knight is forced into a passive and tragic defensive role, a sad testament to the failure of black's strategy. 30. NB3, the knight is rerouted to the crushing c5 square, from where it will deliver the final, decisive blow. The execution is flawless. 30. KD8, the black king desperately tries to escape the danger zone, but there are no safe squares on the board. The end is near. 31, nc5, the knight lands on the monster outpost on c5. It dominates the position, and there is no way for black to remove it. 31, bc8, the bishop is forced to retreat to a passive square. Black is now completely on the defensive, with no active plan. 32, a6. Another brilliant pawn sacrifice. Karpov clears the a-file for his rook and creates an unstoppable passed b-pawn. This is stunning calculation. 32, bx6, black is forced to capture, but this only accelerates his demise. The b-pawn is now unstoppable, and the game is over. 33, b7. The final, brilliant pawn move. It attacks the bishop and prepares to queen on the next move. The position is completely hopeless. 33, bd7, black is forced into a passive defense, but the b-pawn is a killer. The game is over, and the rest is a matter of technique. 34, qb6+, the queen invades with check, driving the black king further into the open. The mating net is closing in. 34, qc7, the queen is forced to block, but this only delays the inevitable. The position is completely hopeless. 35, qa7, the queen invades the 7th rank, creating decisive threats. The coordination of white's pieces is perfect. 35, k7, the king's flight is futile. It is trapped in a deadly mating net, and it is only a matter of a few moves before it is checkmated. 36, n3, the knight joins the final assault, preparing to deliver the final blow. The execution of the attack is flawless. 36, rhf8, the rook tries to create some counterplay, but it is far too late. The game is long past the point of being saved. 37, nexa6, Karpov trades knights, simplifying the position and clarifying his path to victory. The passed b-pawn is the star. 37, nexa6, black recaptures, but the position is trivially winning for white. The passed b-pawn is unstoppable, and the black pieces are helpless. 38, rook-6, the rook captures the knight, and the position is completely winning. The b-pawn will queen, and the game will be over. 38, qf4, black's queen creates one last desperate threat against the white king, but it is a futile gesture. The game is over. 39, qc5+, a precise defensive move that is also an attack. Karpov offers a queen trade, knowing that the resulting endgame is trivially winning for him. 39, qd6, black declines the trade, but this only prolongs the agony. The position is completely hopeless, and the end is near. 40, qc2, the queen returns to a controlling square, from where it will coordinate the final attack. The end is near. 40, rb8, the rook is forced into a passive defensive role, but it cannot defend against the multitude of threats that white has created. 41, rbb6, the rooks double up on the b-file, creating overwhelming pressure. The position is completely lost for black. 41, h5, a pawn move, but it is a futile gesture. The game is completely lost, and these are just the last gasps of a dying position. 42, ra5, the rook lift prepares the final blow. The coordination of white's pieces is perfect, and the end is near. 42, qc7, black is just waiting for the end. There is nothing he can do to improve his position. The game is over. 43, nxd5+. The beautiful final combination. The knight sacrifice is completely crushing, winning the queen or forcing mate. A fitting end to a positional and tactical masterpiece from a 10-year-old. Black resigns. 1-0.